She walked in on her boyfriend cheating, but that wasn't the real shock. Because the moment Su Ruan stumbled into the hotel lobby, soaked, betrayed, and done with everyone, she slammed straight into the one man who never lets a woman touch him. Except, he didn't let her go. And when her enemies came running, ready to humiliate her again, this cold, untouchable billionaire stepped in front of her like a silent storm and said only 2 words. "Is there a problem?" That was the night everything changed. The night a broken girl awakened a sleeping beast and became the only woman his walls couldn't keep out. The Emperor Hotel glittered like a giant jewel suspended above the night, golden, blinding, and merciless. Its marble floors echoed with the footsteps of the elite, but tonight the polished walls vibrated with a different kind of energy. A scandal was brewing, one that would scorch reputations, tear apart illusions, and ignite fates that were never meant to intertwine. Su Ruan didn't walk into the lobby, she staggered. Her hair clung to her skin, damp from the water someone had thrown at her minutes earlier. Her dress was ripped at the shoulder where a jealous hand had caught her. Her shoes were gone, left behind in a hallway where she'd run from humiliation after humiliation. The Wynn family, who claimed she should be grateful to them, had once again reminded her of her place. Disposable, replaceable, convenient. And tonight, Yan Tingnan, her boyfriend of 4 years, the man she once believed cared for her, proved just how disposable she was. She'd caught him tangled with Wan in Suite 16B, the room Su Ruan had booked for their anniversary. The look on his face, half annoyance, half relief, was what finally shattered her. "You weren't supposed to come back yet," he'd said, like she'd ruined his night. When Wan had smirked, hair messy, arms looped around him as if she owned him. "Don't be childish, Su Ruan. You knew you were just keeping the seat warm." Su Ruan should have cried, should have screamed, should have begged for the answers she never earned. Instead, something inside her went cold. No more tolerance, no more begging, no more being the girl who swallowed pain and called it love. She had walked out of that suite with a numb calm, until Wan threw a glass of wine at her and shrieked, "Know your place." The wine was cold. The insult was colder. And Su Ruan knew. Her place was anywhere but beneath their boots. She pressed a hand to her chest now, breathing hard as she reached the elevator bank. Her heart wasn't broken. It was burning. A slow, dangerous flame. That was when she slammed into a wall. No, not a wall. A man. The impact jolted through her bones. She stumbled backward, vision swimming. A hand caught her wrist. Cold, dry, steady. "Watch where you're going." His voice was low, deep, controlled, like the sound of thunder right before the strike. She looked up, and her entire world shifted. Yan Tingnan stood before her, the last man anyone expected to touch a stranger, much less a woman. His pristine white shirt was slightly damp where they'd collided, but his expression remained unreadable. A glacier in human form, cold-faced, untouchable, the kind of man whose presence made silence sharpen and alarms ring in the mind. He was the CEO who rejected every woman who tried to get close. Rumor said he couldn't bear feminine touch at all. Rumor said he once refused a handshake from a queen. Yet here he was, holding her wrist. Her breath hitched. "Let go," she whispered. He didn't. His eyes swept over her. Her wet dress, the bruised shoulder, the trembling fingers she tried to hide. There was no pity in his gaze. No curiosity. Only calculation, sharp as a blade. "Who did this to you?" he asked. A simple question, but her throat closed. She shook her head, refusing to give the one family the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. "It doesn't matter." "It does." 2 words. Heavy. Final. She swallowed. "I don't know you. You bumped into me," he said. "And you're bleeding." She looked down. A thin line of red slid along her arm. She hadn't even felt the cut. Yan Tingnan sighed almost imperceptibly, as if the sight offended him, and lifted his hand. She flinched. Everyone knew. Yan Tingnan did not touch women. Ever. But he didn't retreat. "Stand still," he ordered quietly. She should have run. Should have pulled away. Should have remembered that men with power always took something in return. But for the first time in years, someone's voice didn't sound like a command meant to break her. it sounded like a shield. He pressed a folded handkerchief to her arm. The contact was light, almost too careful, as if he wasn't touching skin but a live wire. His jaw tightened, and for a second she thought she saw something flicker across his expression. Discomfort? Strain? Or something far more dangerous? She breathed in sharply. "What are you doing?" she whispered. He didn't answer, didn't look at her. He simply wrapped the cloth around her arm with clinical precision. The elevator doors behind him dinged softly, announcing their arrival, but he didn't move. It was the first time she'd seen someone hesitate because of her. Her pulse rushed in her ears. "Why are you helping me?" He lifted his head slowly. "Because someone should." The answer stole her breath. Before she could speak, a shriek cut across the lobby. "There! That's her!" When Wan's voice. Su Ruan stiffened. Yan Tingnan's eyes hardened, turning sharp and lethal. His hand dropped from her arm, but the air between them thrummed as if the contact still lingered. "Do you need help?" he asked quietly. The question wasn't gentle. It was a promise. And for a terrifying, electrifying second, Su Ruan realized something. She didn't fear him. She feared what she might become beside him. "No," she whispered, lifting her chin. "I'll deal with them myself." Wan's heels clicked closer. "Su Ruan, you pathetic." But she froze mid-sentence the moment she saw who Su Ruan was standing with. Her face blanched. Her voice died. Even Yan, running behind her, skidded to a stop. Yan Tingnan didn't look at them. He merely shifted ever so slightly, standing between Su Ruan and the people who tried to break her. It wasn't overt. Just enough. Just unmistakable. "Is there a problem?" he asked without turning. His voice was soft. Deadly soft. When Wan's lips trembled. "And no, President Yan." Su Ruan lowered her gaze, lips curling. Not in gratitude, but in realization. Tonight, the world burned around her. Pride. Illusions. Love. Innocence. But from the ashes, something darker rose. She didn't know if Yan Tingnan was her salvation or her ruin. But she knew this. The man who rejected every woman's touch had touched her, and his self-control had cracked. Because of her, danger didn't just begin here. It awakened. Welcome my beautiful family and friends to my YouTube channel. Please click on subscribe, like, share, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now back to the story. For the first time in her life, Su Ruan felt something unfamiliar simmering under her ribs. Not fear, not humiliation, not heartbreak. Power. Small at first, like a spark flickering inside a damp forest. But a spark is all a wildfire needs. When she stepped out of the Emperor Hotel that night, she didn't walk like the girl who had once begged for scraps of affection. She walked like someone who had finally stopped licking her wounds and was ready to bare her teeth. And behind her, somewhere in the shadows of the marble pillars, she felt his gaze. Yan Tingnan, cold-faced, silent, watching. She didn't know why a man who rejected every woman's touch had helped her. She didn't understand the tension that crackled when his fingers brushed her skin. But she remembered how the atmosphere had shifted, how Wan's arrogance collapsed, how Yan froze as if a predator had entered the room. Yan Tingnan hadn't threatened them. He hadn't raised his voice. He simply looked at them, and the whole world took a step back. The next morning, Su Ruan walked into the Wen residence, not as an abandoned lover seeking answers, but as someone ready to dismantle an empire built on her suffering. When Wan was already waiting, sitting pretty on the velvet sofa, bandaged wrist displayed like a badge of martyrdom. "You actually came back," Wan sneered. "Didn't President Yan kick you out once he saw your true colors?" Su Ruan didn't react. Not to the taunt, not to the smug tilt of Wan's chin, not to the way Yan stood behind her, pretending he wasn't shaken by what he saw the night before. She simply placed her phone on the coffee table. Wan frowned. "What are you?" "Play." The audio that filled the room was unmistakable. Wan's voice, shrill, vicious, triumphant, screaming. "Know your place. Trash like you doesn't deserve him." Then Yan. "You weren't supposed to come back yet. You ruined everything." Silence crushed the room. Wan shot up from the sofa. "Stop. Delete that." Su Ruan's smile was razor-thin. "Why? You said those words proudly last night. Shouldn't the world hear how noble you can be?" You. Wan Wan lunged for the phone. Su Ruan caught her wrist midair. The grip wasn't harsh, but it was firm, commanding, enough to make Wan Wan freeze. Try something, Su Ruan whispered. I dare you. Wan Wan yanked her hand back as if burned. Yanni stepped forward, looking torn between anger and fear. Ruan, stop acting crazy. Let's talk. No, her voice sliced the air. I did enough talking for 4 years. Don't be like this, he pleaded. You know I still care. Care, she laughed softly. You didn't even notice I'm allergic to mangoes. But you noticed Wan Wan's perfume. His face fell. Wan Wan took advantage of the silence. You think you're brave now because we let you go to Qingyan? You're nothing without us. You're a stray dog that should have been grateful. But this time the words didn't crack Su Ruan's heart. They sharpened her smile. Good, she said. Keep calling me names. It makes what's coming next much more fun. Wan Wan blinked. What? The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. Not heavy, not rushed, but carrying the kind of presence that silenced rooms before the man even appeared. Yanni stiffened. No way. Yan Tingnan stepped inside, as if he owned the entire Wen residence. He wore no suit jacket, just a black shirt with his sleeves rolled to the elbow. Yet the air around him tightened like a noose. The sunlight dimmed behind him. Even the servants stopped breathing. Wan Wan's lips parted. PP President Yan. Yanni went pale. Su Ruan didn't look surprised. Not exactly. More like she had sensed he would come. Forgive the intrusion, Yan Tingnan said mildly. But nothing about him was mild. His voice was smooth steel, the kind that could slice throats while sounding polite. Wan Wan stammered. W, what brings you here? He ignored her completely. His eyes, dark, cold, bottomless, rested only on Su Ruan. You left without your things. He held out a simple black hair clip she dropped the night before. Yanni choked. She was with you? Wan Wan's face contorted. Impossible. The air vibrated. Yan Tingnan turned his head lazily, the slightest movement, and both of them flinched as if slapped. When someone under my protection is insulted, he said quietly, I make it my business. Wan Wan's knees buckled. Under my protection. Su Ruan felt her heartbeat thud, slow, heavy. Not out of fear, out of realization. Yan Tingnan wasn't saving her. He wasn't being kind. He wasn't even doing this out of some moral obligation. He was acting on instinct. Dormant instincts. Dangerous instincts. Ones that had slept for too long and had now been violently awakened. Wan Wan tried to speak again. President Yin, it's not what. Silence, he ordered. One word, and the room obeyed. He turned back to Su Ruan. Did they hurt you again? Her fingers curled. They tried. His eyes flickered. Not with anger. Anger would have been human. This was something deeper, older, primitive. I see. He took one step forward, and the room's temperature dropped. Yanni finally snapped. President Yin, with all due respect, this is a family matter. Yan Tingnan's gaze cut through him like frostbite. A man who cheats in his own home has no right to speak of family. Yanni's face twisted. Wan Wan grabbed his arm. Stop talking. Just stop. Yan Tingnan didn't raise a hand. He didn't threaten. He didn't even frown. But the Wen family, for the first time, understood. They were prey, and the predator had noticed them. He stepped closer to Su Ruan, lowering his voice so only she could hear. You don't have to fight alone, he said. I'm not fighting for you. His lips curved, cool, faint, dangerous. Good. Fight for yourself. I'll make sure no one interrupts. A shiver ran down her spine. Because this wasn't protection born of chivalry. This was an instinctive force responding to her fire, drawn to it, feeding it, amplifying it until she felt invincible. And in that moment, something clicked. She wasn't just a girl striking back. She was a wolf cub baring her teeth for the first time. And Yan Tingnan, the man the world whispered about, feared, admired, avoided, was the silent storm at her back. Her ex and the fake White Lotus had no idea. This was the beginning, and the wolf cub was hungry. Night fell over the city like a velvet curtain drenched in stormlight. Quiet on the surface, trembling underneath. The chaos began with a single sound, the snap of a prayer bead string. It happened in the narrow corridor behind the Emperor Hotel, a place lit only by a flickering emergency bulb. Su Ruan was pressed against the wall, breath sharp, heart pounding. She had come out for air, but instead found trouble waiting. 3 drunken socialites, friends of Wan, blocked her path. One of them twirled a familiar object around his finger. Yan Tingnan's prayer beads. She recognized them instantly. Smooth sandalwood, hand-polished, held earlier that day between his fingers with a focus so intense it seemed like he was breathing through them. The man sneered. "You made Wan cry tonight. Our little princess says you need a lesson." Su Ruan's pulse kicked. She wasn't afraid. Fear was a language she no longer spoke, but the beads in the man's hand made her stomach drop. "Where did you get that?" she demanded. He grinned and tugged the string sharply. Snap! Beads scattered across the concrete like tiny fallen stars. Something inside her snapped with them. "You shouldn't have done that." The 3 laughed, misreading her tone entirely. "What? Gonna cry? Maybe you can beg President Yan to save you again." She didn't beg. She moved. Fast. A knee to the gut, a shove to the shoulder, a twist of the wrist. The kind of ferocity that came from a girl who'd had enough of swallowing pain. They stumbled back in shock. She grabbed one by the collar. "Pick up every bead. Now!" But before the man could react, the temperature around them shifted, like winter had arrived in a single breath. A shadow fell across the corridor. Yan Tingnan stepped into the dim light. His gaze swept the scene once. Su Ruan's torn sleeve, the bruised wrist she used to strike, the beads rolling across the floor, the men scrambling to regain their balance. And then his eyes met hers. There was no explosion, no dramatic gasp, just stillness. A stillness so intense the air quivered. His voice was low. "Let go of him." For the first time, she hesitated. "They broke your beads." "I know," he said, gaze still locked on her. "Let go." Her fingers uncurled. The man stumbled away, and Yan Tingnan stepped forward. He didn't shout. He didn't raise a fist. He simply looked at the 3 men with a coldness so pure it could cut bone. "Leave," he said, "before I reconsider letting you walk at all." They ran without looking back. Silence wrapped around the 2 of them. Su Ruan exhaled and crouched to gather the beads scattered across the concrete. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I didn't mean for them to get your things." "Don't." His voice stopped her. "Don't pick them up." She blinked. "But they're yours. They're ruined." "So? Then, I'll fix them. I'll—" A hand closed over hers. Bare skin against bare skin. She froze. He froze. The contact was electric. His breath hitched almost imperceptibly, and she felt the tremor in his fingers. Minute control, but real. He should have pulled away instantly. He didn't. "Let go, Su Ruan." He spoke as if the words were scraping out of him. "I'll replace them." She looked up, and their faces were close. Too close. She could see the tension at the edge of his jaw, the way his composure strained like stretched glass. "You shouldn't touch me," she whispered. "I know." And yet, his fingers tightened around hers. "I can't seem to stop." Heat crawled up her spine. "Your condition is irrelevant right now." No, it wasn't. It was everything. Yan Tingnan, the man whose body recoiled from feminine touch, whose panic attacks were whispered about in corporate circles, was holding her hand like he might drown without the contact. She felt his restraint in the rigid line of his posture. Every second was a battle he was fighting against himself. And he was losing. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted her hand and turned it over. A dark bruise marred her wrist. His thumb brushed it lightly. She sucked in a breath. "Who hurt you?" His voice was too calm, too level. The sound of a snowstorm right before it buries everything in its path. "I told you, it's nothing." "It's not nothing to me." Her heart thudded. Dangerous words. Dangerous tone. Dangerous proximity. He stepped even closer, until the cold night air between them warmed. "You should have called me," he murmured. "Why?" she challenged softly. "Would you have come?" His eyes held hers. "Try me." A shiver ran down her spine. She tried to steady herself, to step back, but his presence was magnetic, pulling her in, unraveling logic. "Tingnan," she whispered, "this is not normal for you." His breath ghosted against her cheek. "Nothing about you is normal for me." Her pulse stuttered. Then, very quietly, she said, "You should let go." He didn't. Instead, he traced the edge of her palm, hesitant, fascinated, like he wasn't touching skin at all, but something sacred. The restraint in his body was a storm barely contained. Every time you get hurt, he said, something in me reacts. Reacts. Not protects. Not cares. Reacts. Raw and instinctive. You shouldn't get used to this, she whispered, though her voice shook. I'm reckless. You're not. Not. His lips curved faintly. You think I'm calm? You pretend to be. And you, he countered, pretend you don't know what this is. She swallowed. What is it then? A problem. He leaned in until his forehead almost touched hers. A dangerous one. Her breath tangled with his. Then stop. Tell me how, he murmured. She couldn't. Wouldn't. Something inside her, something wild and ungoverned, reached toward him the same way flame reaches air. She lifted her chin. A simple movement. But it was a provocation. His pupils darkened. Don't, he warned. She didn't listen. She stepped closer. Su Ruan. Yes, Tingnan. If you keep this up, he exhaled shakily. I won't be able to walk away. Who asked you to walk away? Silence. Heavy. Charged. Volatile. Then, he caved. Just a fraction. Just enough for the world to tilt. His hand slid to the back of her neck, slow and reverent. Her breath caught. His touch burned, not cold like his reputation, hot, forbidden, aching. She felt his heartbeat against her palm. Fast. Uncontrolled. Real. For a man who feared touch, this was a fall. For a girl made of fire, this was an invitation. Their foreheads met. No kiss. No embrace. Just heat against heat, more intimate than either could endure. She provoked. He warned. She tempted. He surrendered. Bound by fire. Bound by proximity. Bound by something neither of them dared name. The Wen family had always preferred velvet-gloved cruelty, quiet schemes, whispered rumors, elegant destruction behind closed doors. But after Su Ruan clawed back her dignity and shattered the roles they'd written for her, their gloves slipped. Wen Wanwan was the first to strike. The invitation looked harmless, a private networking event for the Qingyan Group's new product launch. The cards shimmered with gold foil, the kind meant to blind someone into thinking they still belonged among the elite. But Su Ruan wasn't the gullible girl they once toyed with. She arrived early, calm and poised, the picture of polite elegance. Wanwan met her with a sugary smile that clung to the air like rot. You came, she whispered, looping an arm through Su Ruan's as though they were sisters. I'm so glad. Her grip tightened, sweet, innocent, venomous. Su Ruan peeled her arm free. Don't pretend you invited me out of kindness. Wanwan laughed, all white teeth and malice. You're smarter than you look. Let's see how smart you really are. Inside the hall, the lights dimmed to soft amber. The music thrummed like distant thunder. Servers moved between tables, offering drinks on silver trays. People watched Su Ruan with curiosity, some disdain, some interest, all of them waiting for a spectacle. One would come, but not the one they expected. A server passed by with a glass of champagne. Wanwan snagged it and offered it to Su Ruan. Here, for old times. Su Ruan didn't take it. Wanwan's expression wavered for a heartbeat, annoyance flashing under her painted lashes, before she nodded toward a group of executives, whispering, They're watching you. Don't be rude. Su Ruan smiled sweetly. Then she took the glass and placed it delicately in Wanwan's hand. You're right, she murmured. You drink it. Wouldn't want to seem rude. Wanwan froze. A crackle moved through the room, a ripple of awareness. No, I already have a drink. Then it's perfect, Su Ruan said. 2 glasses aren't too much for someone celebrating. Wanwan looked like she'd swallowed a wasp. Her eyes darted to the corner where her mother stood, glaring daggers, silently urging her to drink. And Su Ruan saw it. The poor attempt at disposal. Poison drink. Sloppy. Childish. Wanwan tried to hand it back. It was for you. Su Ruan stepped closer, voice soft as silk, deadly as a razor. Either drink it, or explain to everyone here why you won't. Color drained from Wanwan's face. The executives were looking now. Phones lifted subtly. This was no longer private. Wanwan's hand shook. She lowered the glass. And slowly, defeated, she placed it back on the server's tray. Coward. Su Ruan smirked. Checkmate number 1. Their next move came 2 days later. A fake scandal, photoshopped images of Su Ruan with a married director, exploded online. Anonymous accounts swarmed her with insults, calling her a homewrecker. She sat calmly in her apartment, scrolling through the chaos. Pathetic, she whispered. By afternoon, she released her evidence. The original photos, CCTV footage, timestamps, and confirmation from the director himself. Every lie snapped like cheap string. But the final blow came from an unexpected source. A corporate statement from the Emperor Group. We condemn the defamation of Ms. Su Ruan. Legal action has been initiated against all involved. The internet reacted like gasoline hitting flame. Why was Emperor Group protecting her? Why was Yan Tingnan's signature at the bottom? She didn't ask for his help. He didn't ask permission to give it. But she sensed him in the shadows, watching as she dismantled traps with surgical precision. She wasn't just surviving. She was rising. Wan's family scrambled to distance themselves from the smear campaign, claiming ignorance. Su Ruan didn't bother confronting them. She simply watched them choke on their own lies. Checkmate number 2. The Wen family grew desperate. They played their dirtiest card, an arranged marriage. Not to Yanni. No, that bridge had burned. They chose a wealthy 58-year-old investor with a history of discarded wives and sealed court records. A predator wearing a business suit. They cornered Su Ruan outside her workplace, armed with contracts and thin smiles. Sign it, the Wen matriarch ordered. You owe us for raising you. Su Ruan laughed outright. You didn't raise me. You tolerated me. Yanni tried to soften the blow, fake sympathy dripping like oil. Ruan, this marriage could save your reputation after the scandals. What scandals? She said. The ones I proved were fake. Ruan stepped forward. Stop being difficult. A girl like you should be grateful for any man willing to marry you. Su Ruan's eyes sharpened. Is that how low your value is, Wan? That you think everyone else is beneath you because you're beneath them? Wan lunged, but her mother restrained her. Sign, the matriarch hissed, or you'll regret it. Su Ruan took the contract and tore it cleanly in half. You should have chosen someone who wasn't already under investigation, she said casually. 3 heads whipped toward her. What investigation? The matriarch demanded. Su Ruan held up her phone. This one, live-stream footage of police escorting the investor out of his office, arrested for fraud and assault, glowed across her screen. Wan gasped. You how? Su Ruan stepped close enough that her whisper iced their bones. You plot in shadows, she said. I play in daylight. That's why you lose. Checkmate number 3. In the shadows across the street, a black car waited. Inside, Yan Tingnan watched her walk away from the Wen family, her spine straight, her steps steady, her eyes burning with something wild. He didn't move, didn't speak. He simply observed her like a predator recognizing another predator. Not prey, not weakness, but a creature evolving before his eyes. A wildcat turning into a fox. Smart, quick, unpredictable, and far more dangerous than they thought. His driver hesitated. Should I approach her, sir? No. Then shall we leave? Yan Tingnan's fingers tapped the armrest once, a silent indicator of deep thought. No, he said again, voice low. We wait. He watched Su Ruan disappear around the corner, leaving the winds trembling in her wake. Intrigue flickered in his gaze. Uninvited, uncontrolled, unwanted, but impossible to extinguish. She's learning, he murmured. There was no judgment in his tone, only fascination, dangerous fascination. He should have turned away. He didn't, because every time she bared her claws, it stirred something in him, a dormant instinct awakening, a quiet storm gathering, a feeling he had no right to feel. He was intrigued, much more than he should be. The mountainside resort chosen for the Qingyan Company retreat looked peaceful from afar. Calm lakes, whispering pines, sunlight dripping over rooftops like warm honey. But beneath the postcard beauty lay the kind of danger wrapped in silk, invisible, quiet, and aimed directly at Su Ruan. The retreat's itinerary was supposed to be harmless. Team building, workshops, a banquet by the lakeside. But on the second night, Danger struck in the most delicate form. A glass of fruit punch. She only took a sip. One. Small. Harmless. Or so she thought. Within minutes, heat flooded her chest. The air thickened. Her vision blurred. Her heartbeat turned into a frantic drum. She grasped the edge of the table, steadying herself, but her knees buckled. Colleagues gasped. What's happening to her? Is she drunk? Someone call. No one touch her. The voice sliced through the chaos like a blade of ice. Yan Tingnan stepped forward. He wasn't supposed to be there. The CEO had declined a retreat invitation. But now he crossed the banquet hall toward her with a speed that terrified everyone. He caught her just as she collapsed. Su Ruan felt the cool press of an arm around her waist, a steady hand on her back, holding her upright. The scent of sandalwood brushed past her, and then blackness swallowed the world. When she drifted into consciousness, the first thing she felt was heat. A blanket tucked around her, a warm hand around hers, the faintest brush of fingers pushing hair away from her forehead. Her eyes fluttered open to see dim lighting, wooden walls, and a man seated at her bedside, a man she'd never imagined seeing in such proximity. Yan Tingnan. His posture was forward, elbows on his knees, his hands still wrapped around her as though tension radiated up his arm like he'd been fighting it for hours. He noticed her waking before she made a sound. Don't move, he ordered quietly. Your system is still unstable. She swallowed. Her throat was dry, voice hoarse. Poison. He nodded once. A mild toxin. Nothing fatal, but it hit your bloodstream fast. Ow-hoo. Later. His tone was clipped, dangerous. Right now, focus on breathing. She tried pulling her hand away. He didn't let go. Her breath faltered. You shouldn't touch me. I know. The words were tight, like a man holding onto a cliff edge with fraying fingers. His thumb rested against her knuckles, barely moving, yet every brush felt like a fire spark. She tried again. Your condition. This is different. Why? His eyes lifted. Dark. Intense. Barely contained emotion simmered beneath the surface like volcanic pressure. Because it's you. Those 3 words cracked the oxygen in her lungs. She blinked. Once. Twice. You don't. You collapsed in my arms. His voice grew sharper. Your pulse was irregular. Your breathing shallow. And when the doctor came, you tightened your grip around my wrist as if letting go would kill you. She flushed. I didn't. His other hand, the one not holding hers, lifted slightly, revealing faint crescent-shaped marks. Her nail marks. She gasped. Tingnan. I stayed, he said, voice low enough to vibrate through her bones. Not because I wanted to break my rule. Not because I was able to endure it. He leaned forward, breath whispering against her cheek. But because I couldn't walk away. He spoke like someone confessing a crime. And in a way it was a crime against the vow he'd lived by for years. One he shattered the moment she fell. The doctor cleared her to rest in the cabin's private room. Most employees were still whispering about the spectacle. The untouchable CEO carrying a woman in his arms, refusing anyone else near her, guarding the door like a wolf over a wounded partner. But none of them saw what happened after midnight. When the others had gone, Yan Tingnan remained seated beside her bed. His jacket hung over the chair, the top buttons of his shirt undone, sleeves rolled up, the glow of a single lamp casting shadows across his face, softening the cold lines, revealing a rare vulnerability. She stirred slightly, wincing. He reacted immediately. Are you in pain? His voice dropped into something softer than she'd ever heard. Just dizzy. He reached out, fingers brushing her cheek. The contact sent heat crashing through her veins. You shouldn't. He ignored her. His thumb stroked her cheekbone once. Gentle, careful, reverent, like he was learning the shape of her. Her breath trembled. Why are you doing this? He exhaled, long and hard, as if restraining something feral behind his ribs. I told you before. Every time you get hurt, your instincts react, she finished quietly. His jaw tightened. It's not only that. She waited. His voice turned rough, almost dangerous. I've spent years rejecting contact, years avoiding even accidental touch. But with you, he shook his head slightly. My body doesn't recoil. Her chest tightened. It responds. She swallowed. That doesn't mean you should. It means I can't help it. Her heart skidded. Tingnan. His fingers slid down to her wrist, tracing the faint purple bruise from earlier. She shivered. You think I don't know this is reckless? He murmured. She held his gaze, breath trembling. You are fire, Su Ruan. And you, she whispered, are ice. Yes. He leaned closer. Melting, her pulse stumbled. Tell me to stop, he said, voice fraying. And I will. But she didn't. Couldn't. Instead, she whispered, what if I don't want to? Silence struck the room, thick and trembling. Yan Tingnan's eyes darkened in a way that made her stomach twist and her breath falter. He lowered his forehead to hers, closing the last sliver of distance. Not a kiss, not a promise, something far more intimate. His breath mingled with hers. Warm, shaky. You're ruining me, he whispered. You let me? She breathed back. His fingers pressed lightly against her pulse. Because you're the only exception I've ever wanted. Her world tilted. Because here was the untouchable man, the one who never let a woman near him, never endured feminine touch, never allowed skin-to-skin contact, letting her lean into him, breathe into him, mark him. And he didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. He stayed. All night. His exception. His weakness. His fire. The Break the Cocoon exhibition wasn't just an event. It was a battlefield disguised as an art hall. Crystal lights dripped from the ceiling like frozen tears. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, each voice buzzing with expectation, envy, and hidden agendas. Cameras clicked. Socialites circled like vultures. Investors sniffed for weakness. They all came for one reason: to see if Su Ruan, the girl once thrown away, mocked, framed, poisoned, would break. Or break them. She entered wearing white. Not the timid, apologetic white of her past, but the fierce white of rebirth, the kind that blinded her enemies and sharpened her silhouette like a blade. Her exhibit sat in the center of the room, lit by a single spotlight. A sculpture she crafted from shattered remains of discarded material, glass, resin, burnt fragments, woven into the shape of rising wings. A cocoon bursting open. A becoming. A warning. The room hushed as she approached. For a moment, even the lights seemed to flicker in respect. She made this. Impossible. She was nothing last year. Look at the finish. This is mastery. Whispers swelled. Admiration mixed with disbelief. Su Ruan didn't smile. She didn't need to. She had carved her triumph with grit and blood. Tonight, she stood not as someone crawling from ruins, but as someone born of fire. Hours passed, and praise came like waves. Critics bowing, collectors raising offers, sponsors whispering proposals. Su Ruan accepted each with a poised nod, her eyes clear, steady, untouchable. But fame cast light, and light cast shadows. Dangerous ones. From the corner of the hall, when Wan watched with poisoned envy bubbling in her eyes. Her nails dug crescents in her own skin. The applause around Su Ruan was a slap to her pride. She thinks she can just rise? Wan snarled under her breath. Not tonight. Beside her, the Wen matriarch slid a small key into Wan's palm. The key to the private gallery. The gallery hosting Yan Tingnan's late mother's masterpiece, donated only for the exhibition's finale. Priceless, irreplaceable, sacred. Destroy it, the matriarch whispered. Blame it on her. After this, no one will praise her again. Wan's smile was sharp and unhinged. Yes, mother. A shadow slithered from them to the back hall. The private gallery was empty when Wan entered. Moonlight spilled across the floor, casting long, trembling beams over the painting. An ethereal piece of delicate strokes, gentle hues, a story told in soft grief and hope. It was beautiful, which made Wan hate it more. She raised a lighter. If Su Ruan wants to be a queen, let her burn for it. But the flame had barely flickered when a voice sliced through the silence. Careful, you're not fireproof. Wan spun. Su Ruan stood at the doorway. Calm. Poised. Deadly. As Su Ruan. Wan stuttered. What are you? How did you? You think I wouldn't notice you slithering around the exhibit? Su Ruan stepped forward, each click of her heels echoing like a countdown. You've been plotting all night. Subtle as always. Wan tried to hide the lighter behind her back. You can't prove anything. Really? Su Ruan arched a brow. Then perhaps the cameras can. Wan froze. See cameras? There are none here. Not installed by the exhibition team. Su Ruan lifted a small device between her fingers. Installed by me. The color drained from Wan's face. You planned this. Su Ruan's smile was slow and devastating. You never stopped attacking Wan. You just kept choosing the wrong battlefield. Wan snapped. You think you're clever? You're nothing without people pitying you. She launched herself at the painting, but Su Ruan moved first. She grabbed Wan's arm, twisting it away from the masterpiece, and spun her to the ground. The lighter clattered and skidded across the floor. Wan screamed, "You'll pay for this." "No," Su Ruan said softly, leaning close. "I'm done paying." In the hallway, footsteps thundered. Security burst inside, followed by cameras, followed by spectators, followed by gasps. And then, Yan Tingnan walked through the crowd. The entire world seemed to tilt as he entered. Black suit, silent power, a storm wrapped in stillness. But his eyes were fixed only on Su Ruan. Wan scrambled to her feet. "President Yan, it wasn't me. She tried to destroy your mother's painting." Silence followed, the kind that suffocated. Yan Tingnan's gaze swept the scene. The fallen lighter, Wan's trembling hands, Su Ruan standing firm and unflinching beside the painting. His voice, when it came, was ice forged in thunder. "Show the footage." Su Ruan handed the small device to security. A holographic projection flickered into the air. Wan entering. Wan lifting the lighter. Wan aiming for the painting. The crowd recoiled. Someone whispered, "She's finished." The matriarch tried to push through the crowd, but the security held her back. "This is a misunderstanding. An attempt at destruction," Yan Tingnan said coldly, "of a work I entrusted to this event. And an attempt to frame someone under my protection." Wan choked. I didn't mean. You meant exactly what you attempted." His eyes glinted dangerously. The one family collapsed in panic, security restraining Wan. The matriarch shouting in denial, Yanni pushing through the crowd as if he could salvage anything. But nothing could be salvaged tonight. Not when Su Ruan stood framed in the spotlight, her head high, her presence radiating command. Not when the world finally saw the truth. And not when Yan Tingnan moved to stand beside her. Publicly, openly, unapologetically, he reached out. Not hesitantly, not cautiously, but deliberately, and took Su Ruan's hand in full view of the hall. Gasps erupted. Cameras flashed. Whispers exploded. Su Ruan's breath caught. Yan Tingnan didn't look away from her. "Enough hiding," he murmured, voice low but audible to all. "Enough shadows." He turned slightly, positioning himself beside her with the ease of someone taking his rightful place. "I choose her," he said, to the crowd, to the winds, to the world, and I will continue choosing her. The room shook with shock. Wan collapsed to her knees. The matriarch went pale. The whispers sharpened to a storm. But Su Ruan, she didn't tremble. She didn't lower her gaze. She didn't doubt. She simply lifted her chin, eyes bright with the fire of someone who had risen from ruin and now stood crowned. A queen, chosen not by his power, but by her own ascension. Yan Tingnan tightened his grip on her hand, and together they faced the world. The truth came quietly, like dawn creeping through cracks in blackout curtains. Not with thunder, not with spectacle, but with a whisper that changed everything. Yan Tingnan had always been a fortress, towering, cold, impenetrable. His presence alone could freeze a room, silence a boardroom, bend an empire. People admired him from a distance and feared him up close. But no one ever touched him. No woman ever laid a hand on him. No one crossed the invisible boundary that shielded his skin and his sanity. Until Su Ruan. 4 weeks now, he'd been violating his own rules, touching her when she was hurt, steadying her when she stumbled, letting her lean against him when her strength frayed. He told himself it was temporary, instinctive, a reaction to danger. A lie. And he knew it. But it wasn't until the city whispered the truth that Su Ruan finally heard the real story. The one buried beneath silence, power, and a man's stubborn pride. It came from one of the few men who had known Yan Tingnan long enough to remember the beginning of his ice. President Yan wasn't always like this, the advisor said quietly, watching Su Ruan with a mix of pity and hope. He used to smile. He used to let people close. Then what happened, she asked. The man hesitated. Then he told her. Years ago, a woman, someone Tingnan had trusted deeply, someone he had once considered family, had manipulated his mind and body, using his reliance on her as a weapon. Her betrayal left scars no doctor could see, no medicine could heal. Touch became suffocating. Proximity became poison. Panic attacks tore through him whenever a woman got too close. So he built walls. High, thick, brutal. He swore never to let anyone pass them, never to love, never to touch, never to be vulnerable. But then Su Ruan came crashing into his world like a spark in a dry forest. She first confronted him on a quiet rooftop, overlooking the glowing city. The wind tugged at her hair, carrying with it the faint scent of rain. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. Yan Tingnan didn't turn. He stood with his back to her, shoulders stiff beneath his tailored coat, hands braced on the railing as though anchoring himself. It wasn't important. To you, she said softly. But what about me? Silence. Then very slowly he exhaled. It's not something I wanted you to know. Why? Because you'd pity me. Her breath caught. I don't pity you. You should. His voice was cold, brittle. A man who flinches at touch is pathetic. You didn't flinch at mine. His fingers tightened around the railing. The tendons in his neck strained. That's the problem. She stepped closer. One slow step, then another. He didn't move, but she saw it. The tremor in his shoulders, the conflict in his breath. You think I need protecting from you? She whispered. I know you do. His voice shook. Actual fear, raw, unguarded, broke through the frost. You're the only one I can't seem to push away. The only one whose touch doesn't hurt. Her heart twisted. She reached out, carefully, delicately, and pressed her palm against his back. He didn't flinch. He shuddered. A sound escaped him, half breath, half surrender. He turned slowly, as if turning toward an abyss he had sworn never to enter again. His eyes were dark, stripped bare. No ice. No shields. Just truth. I don't know how to love anymore, he said. I don't know how to do this without breaking something. Without breaking you. You won't break me, she said gently. You don't know that. I do. She lifted his hand and placed it against her cheek. His fingers trembled violently at first. Then slowly, like ice melting under flame, they relaxed against her skin. A broken vow. A broken fear. A broken man learning to breathe again. You became the only person I can touch, he whispered. The only one I want to touch. And I don't know what to do with that. She leaned closer, their foreheads brushing. Let me decide what I can handle, she whispered. Not your fear. Not your past. You don't get to choose my courage for me. His eyes fluttered shut, and then, slowly, he pulled her into his arms, tentative at first, then with a restrained hunger that spoke of years of loneliness. She felt his heartbeat. He felt her warmth. Two broken things fitting together in a way neither expected. News spread across the city like wildfire. The untouchable king, Yan Tingnan, was seen at an event with a woman at his side. Not just near him, touching him. Su Ruan, her hand tucked into the crook of his arm. His coat draped around her shoulders. His eyes soft when he looked at her. People gasped, whispered, stared. But he didn't care. In front of the families who once discarded her. In front of the enemies who tried to break her. In front of the city that once saw her as nothing. Yan Tingnan stood beside her, a silent, devastating declaration. He chose her. Her, the fire that melted frost. Her, the girl who rose from humiliation like a phoenix from ash. Her, the only woman whose touch soothed instead of suffocated him. And Su Ruan? She didn't shrink. She stood tall beside him, chin lifted, eyes fierce, wearing the confidence of a woman who had fought hell with bare hands and won. She was his queen, not by title, by truth. His danger, because she could unmake his walls. His cure, because she healed wounds he'd hidden from the world. And as the city watched, stunned and breathless, Su Ruan slipped her fingers into his. And Yan Tingnan let her, the king who let no woman touch him, let her hold his heart. Thank you for watching this story to the end. Please click subscribe, like, and share this video. Click on the screen to watch the next one.